Our tale starts with a woman weeping, and the narrator notes that some people are so unlucky you can't help but feel sorry for them. We see a woman running away from a scary, many-armed monster that is hurting people, including a man named Kong, while a little boy watches the news about the chaos. In the story, we find out that Kang's parents died right as they were driving to pick him up from school. Worse yet, his family didn't just steal everything he owned, they left him alone on the streets to grow up as an orphan. The harsh life on the streets forged an iron will in the boy, driving him to eat rotting food just to stay alive. Little by little, he clawed his way to a job, studying with fierce determination while surviving on just 4 hours of sleep between work and school. Yet despite his talent and hard work, fate remained cruel and never showed even a shred of luck to our unlucky hero. Just as he sat down for his big test, a string of bad luck struck because his appendix burst, forcing him to give up. He tried to retake the test, but the bus flipped over on the way, so he arrived too late and missed it. On a random day, he was just about to leave the house when a bike fell and jammed his door, trapping him inside and making him miss school. Even though he tried his hardest, a string of terrible bad luck kept messing things up for him, dragging the hero into a life defined by one failure after another. He was ready to quit hunting and find any job, but he still held onto one last hope if all else failed. That hope woke him up. Some are blessed by the gods with special gifts that sleep inside them until they wake up. And once they hit 20, their hidden talents finally wake up. The awakening was only half the battle for any hunter, which is why Kong trained his body to the breaking point, only to find that on exam day, even his hard work wasn't enough to save him from landing the lowest possible rank, F. The examiner told the protagonist that he had no talent at all, and even if only 100 people are naturally gifted enough to reach the top, the protagonist would be stuck in that tiny group of 1% who were just below the worst. Things got worse when the examiner laughed right in the protagonist's face, and even his apology couldn't stop the blow to the hero's spirit. But time moved on to the present day, when a now 25-year-old protagonist fights off a wolf-like monster with a shield. He blocks the attack so hard that his arm breaks right in the fight. The beast lunges forward, its eyes burning with rage, ready to end him with a snap of its jaws. But the protagonist grabs the wolf's paws and stares at it with fierce determination, proving he won't give up so easily. He grabs the wolf's arm and flips it over to knock it off balance. Just as it drops, the hero kicks hard right into the beast's nose. Then the beast slams hard into the floor, sending everything in its path crashing down. The protagonist looks at her and begs her to use her magic right now, for the love of God, because things are getting bad for him. She grabs a fireball, yells at the hero to stand still, and act as a shield while she focuses her magic. Kane sees he's walked right into a mess. He tells us he put together a team with a mage and a tank, though he wishes he had never done it. With enemies closing in and another tank already losing an arm in the chaos, they are surrounded. On top of that, the mage who's supposed to blast monsters for damage is somehow failing to do his job right. These wolf-faced creatures, known as Lees, are surprisingly tough, so that even a low-level F-rank mage can't defeat just 2 of them without another mage to help. And we see one of the Lees rising back up while the protagonist realizes he almost died just to wear it out. That's when a mage finally stops holding back, slams the spell into existence, and yells for the hero to move. He lines up his firebow on the enemies and shouts that one shot will end them. The protagonist and the other hunter feel a wave of relief as he finishes charging, while the no less stare back with pure hatred in their eyes. The mage finally lets his arrow go, but it flies wide and pokes the ground before the monsters even notice, leaving them standing there, completely confused. The protagonist panics and yells at the mage for wasting their magic by shooting the arrow at the ground, ruining their chances, but their argument is cut short when the other hunter drops his sword. As the protagonist peers closer, he sees the man on the floor, nearly torn apart by one of the no less. Now that his sword is gone, he has no choice but to ask the protagonist for help. But he's also busy fighting the other nulls, so he tells the warrior to hang on while he heads that way. Amidst the chaos, he looks aside to see the mage open a portal to flee, leaving them behind, while the mage with the most shameless grin claims that since all 3 were about to die, at least one had to survive. He laughs at the hero, calling him a human shield, which makes him fly into a rage. The narrator reveals that the protagonist was a tanker, a role usually given to powerless people who were then called human shields. They were treated like replaceable tools by the powerful, so anyone could have died at any moment without causing a single ripple of surprise. Realizing the other hunter is about to be eaten by the void, the protagonist considers slipping through the half-open portal to escape, because dying while trying to save someone who isn't worth saving would make his life end in futility. Just as he's about to step through the portal, someone stops him and says he was picked by a smount, the god of trials and suffering. He stands frozen before the wall, clueless about what he's facing, while we see that the figure is actually a stunning woman with white hair. The hero snaps in anger and demands to know where the portal vanished. That's the one that was right here just a moment ago. But the woman lets out a ridiculous, ear-splitting scream and declares that from this moment on, he must face a trial to pay for the karma of his past life. Kong can't make sense of her words, so he just covers his ears to shield himself from her loud, explosive scream. He wonders what she meant by past life. Then the woman leaps from the top of the wall, crashing down in front of him and cracking the ground. Before the protagonist can even understand what just happened, a null appears right behind him and stabs him with its sharp claws. She stares at him with a strange smile and gently asks him to choose the right path. The scene shifts to the other hunter, who is still alive but fighting hard to run away from a null. He ponders how everything fell apart, and we learn his name is Kim Chunik. We then see a flashback of the hunter's past, where his alcoholic father used to beat his wife until she could take no more and left them both. But his father didn't wait long before a car accident took his life, leaving Kim to live with his grandmother as the only family he had. Before the monsters came to tear the world apart, Kim was just an ordinary boy. When he grew up, he lived with his grandmother and did whatever he could to help her. He lived his life just like any regular office worker, keeping his distance from the hunters until a single event changed everything and became the turning point of his story. His grandmother suddenly fell ill with a rare sickness, and the doctor warned that the cure would cost him a fortune. With no way to get that ridiculous amount of cash, he knew he had to find a fortune somehow, even if it meant risking his own life. That's when he chose to become a hunter, only to fail the exam at 20, leaving his future looking bleak. With his grandmother as the only family he had, he worked tirelessly to become a hunter so he could protect her. But then the story jumps back to today, where he's under attack and moments away from dying. In his memories, Kim bitterly regrets agreeing to join the mage on that dangerous mission, knowing all along that the guy would likely betray him. As he fights to hold on against the void, his mind drifts to his grandmother, wondering how she will survive her treatment without him. Suddenly, the wolf freezes mid-attack as a sword strikes it right beside its ear, finally stopping the beast. Kim couldn't believe what had just happened or how he was still alive, so the story flashes back to the moment Kong was hit by the wolf's claws. The woman points at him, claims he was a demon in a past life, and that's why his current life is so unlucky. And though he is confused about why he is even alive after that hit, she simply touches the wolf's claw and it vanishes like paper. He rubs his belly and finds the wolf bite gone, as if it never happened at all. Kong leans in to ask the girl what's happening and if he actually heard her right. She repeats that he was a demon, and for a moment, we catch a quick glimpse of the hero from a past life. Kong still doesn't get it, and the woman tells him he can choose to believe her or not, but she warns that if he doesn't fix his past mistakes, he'll never find a happy life. By finishing these trials, he can wash away his past mistakes, earn rewards based on how hard each test is, and finally find the only path to a happy life. Then she dashes toward the hero, who still doesn't know what to do, and tells him it's time to start their first challenge. The mission is to get the hunter, Kim Chunik, out alive, but the protagonist is yelling at her to shut up because they couldn't even fight the monsters back then. So what's he supposed to do now? She stops the boy by pulling out a strange, glowing blue leaf and telling him this is his reward for the mission. Back to the moment when Kim was nearly gone. We watch the hero charge straight at the monsters, sword raised and ready to strike. The two gnolls spot him, and one of them immediately snatches a piece of wood to get ready for a fight. As they rush at him, the hero quickly uncaps a bottle, and a magic spell bursts out from inside. As the magic wraps around the sword the hero carries, we see it's a spell that makes his blade absurdly sharper. With this new power, he keeps pushing forward to fight the enemies, using his shield to stop their attacks. He dashes across the battlefield at a speed he never knew he possessed, effortlessly dodging every attack aimed at him. Finally, he slips under a monster, yanks his sword up, and drives it straight through the gnoll's body. As the monster lets out a scream of agony, the hero seizes the chance to land his final sword blow. Fury burning in his eyes, he drives his sword forward with every ounce of strength he has while his enemy claws desperately at him, trying to shove him off balance. But it was too slow, and before it could catch the protagonist, it crumbled to the ground in defeat, never to rise again. The monster's claw gave Kong a scratch on his arm, making him happy that at least one of the Lees was finally put down. Just as the other gnoll lunges to take a bite, the protagonist barely manages to twist away at the very last second. King growls in frustration when he sees his sword still stuck in the other enemy, knowing he'll have to find a way to free it if he wants to win. He hears that woman's voice in his head warning him that these trials force you to risk your life, so he must keep that in mind. He then pulls out a small dagger and decides to face the beast anyway, leaping at it and daring it to come at him with everything it has. He blocks the enemy's claw swipe, struggles to keep his dagger steady with his injured arm, but grips it tight enough to drive the blade home with all his might into the null's vital spot. The monster crashes down, dead, and the hero gasps with relief that he finally won. But then he remembers Kim is still in trouble and sprints to grab his sword stuck deep in the void. He grabs the object and hurls it with every ounce of his strength, striking the enemy who is holding Kim so hard that they are knocked out in one single blow. She stares at him with relief, then drops to the floor, utterly drained from the fight. Just before that, a message whispers in his mind that the trial is done and his reward is coming. The hero blacked out until someone slapped him awake and yelled, "Get up!" The scene shifts to show that woman glaring at the hero with pure impatience, ready to throw a punch if he doesn't wake up right away. Still shaking from the shock, Kong watches as the girl slides a note across the table, telling him it's his reward for finishing the job. The protagonist can't grasp why it matters and asks why it's just a piece of paper, but the girl snaps at him to be grateful since she actually went through the trouble of printing it for him. Suddenly, the paper jumps into a high-tech screen, leaving the girl shocked as she realizes how much things have changed. She wraps it up by reminding him the mission isn't done, warns him not to just faint out of nowhere next time, then says goodbye and vanishes. The hero leans in to inspect his prize and discovers he has been gifted a whole new set of powers all at once. He even has a special 3-star power that heals him but lets him trade his own health to heal even more. The second is an evolution skill that boosts his defense and promises he will transform once he gathers 50 units of holy power. The protagonist says that while most hunters only get 1-star skills, a lucky few can learn 2-star and 3-star ones. He felt a huge rush of joy because his hard work finally paid off with a powerful new skill. Then he remembers the girl's warning. He hasn't finished his mission yet because he still has to see Kim safely out of there. He rushes to his friend lying on the ground and apologizes for getting distracted and forgetting him, fearing that he might already be dead. Kong realizes he's too weak to make it to the hospital before he gets worse. The hero suddenly recalls his power to heal, understanding it was the reason for his reward. So he reassures Kim that he'll be fine and starts casting magic to fix him. His body is torn up by the null's attacks, but the hero's magic instantly fixes every scratch and bruise. After that, the view shifts to the outside, right in front of the hunter management office. We spot the traitor mage from before striding toward a room, grumbling about why he was suddenly summoned there. He strides in with a smug grin, telling them to hurry up because he's in a rush. But inside the room, a group of hunters corner the mage known as Moon Summon to question him about his last mission. But the room wasn't empty, for the protagonist stood there too, and Moon was already shocked just knowing the kid had survived. The hunters order Moon to sit still while he scrambles to slip out the door. So they ordered him to be tied up instead. The coward sprints down the hallway, only to be tackled by another huntress who pins him down and scolds him for abandoning a friend on his last mission. She keeps talking, saying that a squad leader who leaves his friends behind in another world is committing a serious crime. Moon attempts to talk his way out by asking if they have any proof that he really left them there on purpose. The huntress reveals a screen showing they recorded everything, proving that when his spell failed, he instantly fled, which will be used against him in court. As he starts to freak out after finding out he was recorded, the protagonist just sits in the next room and listens to it all unfold. The huntress steps forward to thank him for his help, noting that his evidence will solve the case and guessing it must have been terrible for him to endure it. She said that while people often kill other hunters in the other world, getting proof of it is almost impossible. But he says luckily he always records his missions, and this time that habit really saved him. The narrator says that killing someone was so easy in the other world that hunters had to be super careful about who they teamed up with. When Moon's attack failed, he instantly snapped with no guilt, while the maid saw herself just as a paid human shield he'd bought to die in his place. After watching the footage, the huntress noticed the protagonist was far stronger than a simple Frank tanker and asked why he was working as one. If he joins the army, he'll get weapons to fight monsters, but the hero warns that guns just don't work well against those that are tough to hit. Since he has already faced so much bad luck, he decides not to risk it all with those dangerous weapons. And that is exactly why he is determined to become a hunter his own way. After their talk, the protagonist walks out of the office feeling a heavy weight lift off his shoulders, secretly hoping Moon spends the rest of his life locked away behind bars. But halfway there, he bumps into Kim, who knows him the moment she sees him. The man drops to his knees and thanks him for saving his life just before. The story then jumps back a few days to show Kim waking up in the hospital, having been brought there by the protagonist. As he starts to remember everything, He recalls that right before he blacked out, he saw Kong fighting the NLES to save his life. Kim is shocked that he is still alive and can't figure out how the hero defeated the monsters or why he was saved. But his grandmother's worried voice cuts in, seeing that the boy is covered in injuries. She scolds him, asking why he took on such a deadly mission for her, if he's lost his mind, ready to die right alongside her. Kim tries to calm her down by saying his high blood pressure is the issue and that he is okay, but the old lady insists he looks like a skeleton because he is so messed up. The man says he's lucky to be alive, but his grandmother thinks she's ready to go since she's so sick, just begging him not to go on any more dangerous missions. Kim begins to recall all the wonderful times he spent with his grandmother, dreaming of a future where he can live happily and peacefully right beside her. And that's when his grandmother pulls him into a tight embrace, weeping and begging him not to throw his life away. The story jumps back to the present, where Kim is still bowing deeply and making a huge scene on the street while talking to the protagonist. Kim thanked the protagonist, who replied that in that other world you can only rely on your teammates, so he had no choice but to save his life. Kong admits he's scared too and isn't the brave hero Kim thinks he is. But the man keeps staring at him with admiration, making the protagonist so uncomfortable that he tells him to stop. The protagonist remembers he can't just tell Kim that he only saved him because of a mission and didn't expect them to run into each other again. So he attempts to sneak away without a sound, but Kim insists that he at least pay back the favor for the help he received. Just as he reaches out to ask about the reward, the voice in his head speaks again, announcing a new trial and explaining that Kim's mother is sick, forcing him to donate $150 million in a single go to pay for her surgery. After hearing all that, the main character wonders why he should help this guy even more. The voice promises that if you do this, you'll get a stat boost and unlock a brand new 1-star skill. The protagonist checks his bank account and finds the money, but it's every last cent he's saved after years of hard work. He feels truly heartbroken because that money was everything he had earned in his life. He decides to make the donation, knowing that remembering the girl's words will wash away his bad karma. She warns him that turning back now means losing all his rewards and falling into such terrible karma, he could be left in a vegetative state. So he realizes he has no choice but to finish the missions. The hero admits the prize might be small, but without taking this job, he won't be strong enough to face the harder challenges ahead. He wonders how much money he could make as a famous hunter to earn back his $150 million quickly, especially since being an F-rank hunter keeps him from buying anything in a market, so finding a new skill would be a huge advantage. After a long time of thinking, he calls the Hunter Association, makes his donation, and gets a brand new secret skill. The camera then shifts to the test as the examiner calls the participants forward. He says the game is a virtual reality test where players will use ready-made characters to see how well they can handle the challenges. In this game, each character has a special job to do, and you must follow your mission without complaining about the role you're given. The examiner says that if you're good at your job, your character will succeed, but if you fail, it's not your character's fault. He calls out the protagonist's name and says he's been given the duty of being the group's tanker, whether by luck or fate. Plus, he has to stand strong against Null's attack for 5 minutes, a tough test the hero has already survived once. The system hands him a sword and a shield, then locks every character stat at exactly 30. As they wish him luck and send him into the virtual world, he is quickly surrounded by foreign Lees who glare at him and charge. As the examiners watch the fight from the outside, the hero thinks about how much effort he had to put in just to boost his skills a tiny bit. Now, he finally gets a score of 30, just like in the test. And as he thinks about it, one of the examiners starts to look at him with interest. The hero just unlocked a powerful shield skill perfect for tough fighters, so he thinks now is the perfect time to see if it really works. The Nulls charge at him, and though he blocks one's bite with his shield, another jumps out from behind to claw at him. The protagonist leaps at the last second, barely dodging a monster's deadly slash aimed at his face and sending the beast crashing to the ground. He then runs up to the creature, kicks it hard in the ribs, sends a monster flying, and watches it crash into another one nearby. Just as another blow comes from above, the hero stays sharp and blocks it with both his sword and shield. He figures that having every stat at 30 makes him way tougher and quicker than his real body ever could be. Mixing his past fighting lessons with a new power lets the hero face the Null-less with far more skill this time. She pointed at the examiner once more to get his attention. One operator was blown away by how quickly the protagonist could read the room and react, noting that despite being just a tanker, he was by far the most capable candidate in the group. The hero keeps battling, slamming his shield up to stop the Null's deadly blows. Right in the middle of the chaos, he tosses one of them far across, which only makes the creature even angrier. But the monster spots 3 other people walking by and, instead of chasing you, turns its attention to them. The examiner explains that the tanker test is all about seeing how well the hero can protect his friends, and even wonders if he noticed they were there at all. The null lunges at them, but the hero finally unleashes his guardian shield, which magically pulls all three enemies to attack him instead, allowing him to block every strike, including the one from behind with his sword. The examiners are amazed, and the protagonist thinks to himself that this power is designed to twist the enemy's attacks back onto them. He explains that as he cleanses his karma from his mound, it pushes him to play more selflessly, giving up for the sake of the whole team. The tankers stand at the very front to shield the group, ready to take the first hit if things go wrong, which is why people need so many more of them. Once drivers chased tanker jobs for the high pay, but soon they turned away because the work became too risky. The danger was great, but the prize was just as big, making it the perfect fit for the hero. To him, the tanker lifestyle felt like a far better choice than drowning in the endless paperwork of a boring office job. The hero wandered so far that he didn't notice the test was over and the monsters had already disappeared. He's focused on climbing the ranks to leave Frank behind and join top-tier raids, hoping to finally shake off the shame of being seen as low-level. And that's when he glances up at the giant screen revealing the results, leaving everyone stunned as they see the protagonist has earned an incredible S+ rank for a perfect score. The camera jumps to the Hunters Club, where one of the examiners is knocking people out and calling them pathetic. He scoffs. These folks couldn't even pass a simple test, so how could they think they belonged here? The examiner snaps back, reminding him that the battlefield is deadly, not a playground for games. As Missy talks about a scary memory from his past, he suddenly stops listening when he spots a file that catches his eye. He was blown away by the protagonist's perfect tanker play, who took 0 hits while drawing all the monsters onto himself and keeping his team safe. Exactly the kind of legendary performance the basic trials are supposed to show. But then another worker calls over the examiner, and we learn he is also a team leader. Back at the test, a huntress explains that in the next round, people will be split into teams of 5, and 2 of those teams will face off in a battle. They get blasted to a low-level zone where they must slay every monster to move on, and only the best performers get to go further. Everyone gets tossed into a random zone and won't know their teammates or the leaders until they arrive there. She calls out the names of the team leaders, announcing that Team 1 will be led by a blonde boy named Min Hyung. Team 2 is led by a boy named Jo Hamul, though no one knows how he got the job since he is already sweating with nerves. So they settle on a game of rock, paper, scissors to let the winner pick their team first. With the fewest wins, he has chosen to pick a player for his team. He picks a tanker to lead the charge, and Jo Hamul notes that a strong front line makes raids much easier as long as the rest of the team does their jobs. The men picked out a super muscular guy to be their team's tanker. When it's finally Joe's turn to choose, his nerves jump even higher, and he sees that only 2 players are left. He glances at the skinny Kingan and asks if he's truly a tanker. But since having a tanker is better than having no one at all, he chooses him to join the team. The team picking goes on for a while until it finally stops and everyone has their squad. The examiner warns that in a real fight, no one will come to their aid, so they must use this 30-minute break to study for the test and get to know their team. Min's team cheers for their strong tanker line, and the leader reassures everyone that staying in their spots will keep them safe as they begin planning their next move. But back in the protagonist team, everything is falling apart and the mood is terrible. Noticing the leader was too scared to talk, the protagonist stepped in to start a chat and asked if they should plan a strategy together. Hearing that, Joe awkwardly starts shouting and asks if anyone has a plan to get the team pumped up. As they talk, that same examiner keeps his eyes on the protagonist. He shook his head at the failed test, telling the protagonist that while they have promise, they simply don't have the talent to pull it off. Just as the 30 minutes ticked away, the examiner stepped forward and declared that the test was finally about to start. The scene shifts to a grassy field where Min's team walks, each dressed in the outfit for their assigned class. Right then, the tanker ahead screams for everyone to duck. Suddenly, an enemy pops out from nowhere and smashes into his shield. Min yells for everyone to line up because a band of armed orcs is coming toward them. The tanker stands firm with his iron body skill, taking the hits and keeping the orcs' attacks at bay. Min proves he's a true leader by telling the healer to keep the tankers safe and ordering everyone else to charge the orcs. The archer shoots an arrow at an orc, who easily blocks it with his hand, but this was just a trick to let the swordsman slip in low and slash him with his blade. The orc shields his friend, and their weapons smash together. Just as the swordsman is distracted, an orc grabs the chance to sneak a hit with his axe. Knowing what was coming, the tanker pulls out the guardian shield, just like the hero did before, to snap the axe-wielding orc's focus from them and onto the tanker, so the two lock weapons in a fierce clash. Soon the other two orcs rush in to help, and all three charge at the tanker while he fights his hardest to keep them away. Min thinks that with the healer's help, they can hold out long enough to try catching the orcs off guard. So he and the archer spring their trap, but everything changes the moment a growl echoes from the distance, and he freezes in shock, unsure of what to do next. As he lifts his head, a massive army of heavily armed orcs surges forward toward them. He counts 8 more orcs coming toward them, realizing the first 3 were just a scout team. He charges at one of them, sprints away, and yells for everyone to retreat and hide behind the tanker. The tanker named Young Su fights hard to hold back the 3 orcs, but he is about to lose his shield. The healer yells at him that he must hold the front line or they'll all die right now. While the examiners watch from afar on their drone, one of them grabs a mic and starts talking to them. He says that what most hunters miss is that the government's ranking list isn't just to honor them. It serves a deeper purpose. It's also about making sure every hunter has the right skills for their rank, so people trust an E-rank hunter to take on E-rank missions just like they're supposed to. It was no surprise to see a low-rank tanker having a hard time fighting the orcs. If he were capable of taking down those orcs right now, he'd probably be looking for a rank better than E. He's saying that to pass this test, one skilled person isn't enough. Everyone needs to be good at their job, or the whole test will fail, and even those who are just giving up agree that if the big truck crashes, we all lose. He tells the healers to do everything they can to save the tanker, while he and his team sneak around to hit the orcs from the back. Min lunges forward to slash an orc with his sword, barely dodging a wild counterattack, while the tanker gets hit repeatedly and his shield is about to break. The fight rages on as the archer rains arrows on the orcs to draw their fire, while the healers keep everyone alive until their hard work finally pays off and they break free from the virtual world. The tanker, who was the first to exit, instantly collapses to his knees on the floor, knocked out cold and badly hurt. The others stare in shock at him as a nurse steps forward to give first aid. The rest of the team is completely wiped out, but they're still getting a round of applause for finally finishing the test. As the tanker is wheeled out on a stretcher, the announcer shouts that it's finally our team's turn to shine. Joe stops dead in his tracks and starts to worry if they're really going to make it. He and his group step right through the portal and find themselves in a swamp. Joe worries their tanker is even weaker than Team 2's, so he'll have to send him right to the front line. As the whole team trudges through the mud, thinking the same thing, the protagonist keeps their eyes locked on the path until suddenly, a heavy stomping sound breaks the silence. Joe screams to warn everyone that something is coming, shouting for them to get into formation while he pulls his arrows back. Just then, a goblin with a weapon leaps into the air and crashes down into the mud right in front of them. Just when it seemed bad enough, the group felt their feet slowly sinking into the sticky mud. The examiner watches the test unfold, noting that while real hunters usually study the land before a mission, here they must change on the fly without any time to plan, giving the goblins the upper hand. Seeing that things have gone wrong, the group tries to run away, but a goblin flies in with a knife to strike anyone in his path, only to have his blade bounce off Kangan's shield, because Kingan stepped in front to take the hit. He jams his sword into the goblin, making it back away, and the injured Kong then yells for everyone to stay calm, so they can fight back. A goblin shoots an arrow at the hero, who blocks it with his sword and quickly realizes the goblins are working together as a team. As he takes a closer look, he realizes a hobgoblin is pulling the strings from somewhere. But right then, it didn't matter because he was exactly what the moment needed. He activates his Guardian's Will skill, which boosts his defense and healing based on how many foes are around, giving him enough power to blast the goblins away without even trying. The examiner and everyone else on the team stare in total shock at what they are seeing. Joe yells for everyone to strike at once, and they don't hesitate for a second. As the team wipes out the goblins one by one, fueled by the hero's power, he suddenly realizes that his strength fades away each time an enemy disappears. As fewer enemies stay on the field, his defense and healing grow stronger. The protagonist finds this new power rather fascinating. But the fight isn't over, as the hero feels the ground shake and instantly shouts for everyone to get back. He lifts his shield to block the strike, only to see a tall orc attacking him in a quiet zone where no one expects such danger. Since this monster is ranked D, the team suspects something must have gone wrong with the test. They get ready to run away, but the hero stops when he sees a Smound chillingly relaxed, sitting right on the orc's shoulder. As the protagonist puzzled over her sudden arrival, we saw that not even the examiners realized this monster was there. They reached out to the hunter overseeing the test, who explained that they checked 3 times but couldn't find any trace of the orc. The hunter and his team have decided to end the test because they can no longer watch more people get wiped out this time. The examiner, who watched the protagonist with clear interest, told them to wait and see what would happen next. But the examiner, wearing glasses, insists he must be crazy because the media has been watching them closely ever since the last time hunters were eliminated. We learn that the hunter named Kim Youngman understands our worries, but he trusts his own judgment and won't take any foolish risks. He even promises that if things go too far south, he'll step in to fix them himself, so they should stop worrying and just let the group have more time. However, 2 other examiners are convinced he's joking because Meow Min was already kicked out of the battlefield for acting like that. Even though more people could get knocked out, the examiner with the glasses agrees, just warning that Mayan will have to take the blame if anything goes wrong. Back to the protagonist, a sound, who just woke up, says this is the 3rd trial and he must ensure every member of his team survives. If the orc strikes anyone down, the burden falls on the hero, and he realizes the girl's voice is only in his head, unseen and unheard by anyone else. She wraps up her lesson by telling him that if he dies, all the karma will fall on him. But since he's already survived something like this, he'll be okay. Just then, Asen says goodbye and tells him to do his best before vanishing right in the middle of an orc's axe swing. The hero barely misses getting hit in the face, slipping out of the way just in time, so the smash ends up in the mud instead. He grumbles that life just got harder, since he was just promoted to rank E and now he's already forced to fight a monster that size. He shouts at Asmound, claiming that she and everyone else just want him gone because of the bad luck from his past life. So even though things are tough, he won't quit and instead yells for everyone to get ready to fight so he can hold back the orcs. He holds up a shield just as the orc swings his heavy axe down hard to strike. As the orc charges through the mess everywhere, the hero gets ready to take the blow. He leaps aside at the final moment and swings his sword from below to strike the orc. The creature spots him and, wild with anger, swings its axe at the boy, but he spins backward to avoid the blow. At that moment, the fierce wind from the orc's axe swing hits him, and he knows that even a single blow from that giant would be the end for him. Even though she's scared, Joe draws an arrow and yells to the team that the tanker is fighting to save them, so they have to fight back too. But everyone had long ago given up and now stood frozen, too scared to move. One of them even starts to wonder if they've completely lost their minds in the middle of all this chaos. The guy even blames the protagonist, saying that if he hadn't jumped in front, the examiners would have already called the test off. Instead of taking action, he just stands there wondering what the administration is doing. While Mon watches silently, Joe leaps into action and fires her arrows at the goblins, knocking out 2 of them. Even with their hearts pounding, the other 2 hunters step up to help fight. One of them floats a tree straight up and hurls it right at the orc. The monster spins back around after getting hit by Joe, ready to crash at them, until the hero slashes its foot with a sword to stop the charge. Even as they throw everything they have at him, the orc stays standing, only getting angrier until he snaps into a blind fury. He can't believe that such a terrifying monster can still move that fast, yet when he least expects it, the orc strikes him at an unbelievable speed. In that split second, we lose sight of Kong, while Meow Man watches in silence, and Joe screams the hero's name, only to discover later that the chaos sent the protagonist flying far away from the orc's powerful blow. He struggles to stand, but an orc rushes forward and smashes a punch into his shield just as he holds it up. Just as he thought he was safe, the orc swings its free hand to slam the axe handle into the protagonist's chest, sending him crashing to the ground. The examiner with glasses insists we must act now since things have gone too far, but Meowin just watches quietly while the protagonist slips away from the ogre, slashing its leg with a sword. Since he is utterly exhausted, his healing power kicks in and his health begins to recover. But even that wasn't enough to shake his exhaustion, and while his teammates asked if he was okay, the protagonist began to wonder if he should just give up. But then he understands the secret to winning. He just needs to stop the orc from moving past a certain spot, so he gathers every bit of will left in him and promises to keep the beast pinned there until everyone else escapes safely. He yells at his friends to stop worrying and keep fighting, promising he can keep going no matter what. Even as the examiner looks on in despair and the orc warriors fall around him, the brave heroes keep charging forward to strike down their enemy. Kong spots that the orc is also growing tired, so he tells everyone to keep going just a little longer because victory is near. But the orc is as angry as he is tired, so he hits the hero hard again and sends him flying, only for the team to use their knowledge of his moves to attack him while he is off balance. After all that fighting, the orc finally hits the ground, and Joe feels the weight lift off his shoulders as he shouts they've won. Suddenly, the orc bellows again and hurls its axe at the hero with every ounce of strength left in its body. Joe shouts a warning for the hero to stay sharp while Kong gets ready, wondering if he can block the attack. Halfway through, he notices something's off and sees the axe isn't meant for him. The axe swung straight at the hunter who had dared to complain about the hero just moments before. The battle was so chaotic that he had completely forgotten the guy was even there. As soon as he sees this, the hero freezes in terror, remembering that if even a single person fails, his precious karma will be ruined. So he tries to run toward his teammate, but the scene cuts, and we're left wondering what happened. Next, we see the bespectacled examiner apologizing for the mix-up, admitting it was their fault, and promising to make everyone whole for the danger they faced. Joe and the other hunters argued that it must have been a mistake, but the protagonist felt heavy with guilt, believing his own bad luck caused everything to go wrong. Surprisingly, Mangman even apologizes and promises to take full responsibility for what happened. But then the scene shifts to show the hunter standing alive right behind him, leaving us wondering what really happened during the test and how he made it through. The examiner summoned the protagonist and asked for a private chat. So they drag him to another room where he's served tea and waffles to eat. Mo asks if it's true he's been a human shield for 6 years, and the protagonist nods to confirm it. He was so amazed by how well the protagonist handled everything that he briefly believed the hero could actually beat a rank York right now. The hero finally realizes why he wasted so much time doing nothing while Asen stood by, and the man then gets straight to the point. He wants the hero to join the Rangers, the group he belongs to, explaining that he's only acting as an examiner for now, but will return to being a ranger in a few months and can even register the hero himself if he wants. By letting him choose to work full-time or as a mercenary, he proves his worth, so we finally learn the truth about the forest at the end of the test. The hero shoved his friend aside, just in time, and took the orc's axe right to his chest. He tumbled backward, and his teammates panicked, thinking he had been knocked out. But then his guardian's powers sparked, healing him instantly and giving him a shield against harm. Mongan insisted that only a true hero could have done that, then asked once more if Morgan wanted to join the Rangers, and signed him up right away. Kong couldn't believe his eyes when the famous Rangers, who usually only take in special cases, decided to recruit him. He can't believe it's real and almost signs the deal, but he stops to think carefully since the Rangers fight monsters and travel to other worlds, making it the perfect place for a sound to mess with the protagonist. As soon as the protagonist touched the contract, the words shifted to announce the 4th trial, forcing him to join the Rangers, protect the world, and risk a mysterious reward to accept his fate. The protagonist even rubs his eyes to make sure he really read the words correctly. As he does this, he spots another page saying he can finish the trial simply by taking the offer. He gets mad at Asmum for not letting him read the contract first. What if Meowman's contract hides something even worse? With nowhere else to go, he takes the deal, leaving Meowman shocked that he agreed so fast without realizing a goddess was pulling the strings. The protagonist insists he'll only agree if he can work as a mercenary, because even though Meow Min is his boss, he'll still get to pick the missions he wants to take. Knowing he only had to agree to the deal, he decided to take only the missions Mount forced him to choose. Meow Min says he's grateful and agrees to work with you, but deep down he's not thrilled about being forced to become a mercenary. He signs the papers, declares it's time to go, and stands up to leave the room. But right then, something wild and strange starts to happen. The protagonist feels weird, then suddenly several spirits burst out of him, making him stumble. Meow Min asks if you're okay, but you're still standing there, confused about what just happened. Kong claims he's okay, but deep down he's confused by the strange pictures he saw, which he knows must be the special message he received. No matter what he saw, we won't know yet because the story jumps ahead a week. Kingon showed up at the bus stop wearing a beanie in the freezing cold. He told the protagonist that right after signing the contract, he was flooded with memories of his past life as a demon, so dizzy he had to sprint to the bathroom to catch his breath. The clue sent him straight to a dungeon in Churin, a place deep within Genwen province. If he wins, he'll get a piece of his past life, and the main character thinks A's Mound is trying to push that demon's memories into his brain. The protagonist says that linking to a place above is called a link, but linking to one below means you've found a dungeon. Reaching them is tough since they lie underground, and whenever a new dungeon springs open, folks nearby say it feels like hell itself has burst up from the earth. The protagonist's lost memories are hiding somewhere deep inside that unregistered dungeon. Standing before the cave that leads to the dungeon, the protagonist admits he doesn't get why a sound wants to show him those memories. But the protagonist has felt sick ever since he learned the news last week, and he must figure out what's making him feel this way. Before stepping inside, the hero casts a magical wall at the doorway to keep the monsters trapped and stop them from breaking out into the world. The first rule when entering a dungeon is to pack your food, gear, and a flashlight, because the place is usually pitch black and you never know how long you'll be trapped inside. The hero spends a moment hunting for his flashlight, and the instant he finds it, a giant skull blocks his path. He screams in terror to find that the attackers are skeleton soldiers, one of whom holds a deadly sword. The protagonist knows there is something very important hidden inside. The trouble is he barely managed to beat a single skeleton before, and now he's staring down 5 of them. Now the hero has learned to stand on his own after surviving so many near-fatal battles. He slashes his sword through the endless swarm of pain-fueled skeletons, only to reveal that their weakness lies in the power of the divine. That attack turns dark monsters into dust, and the hero decides he can go in alone now that all the monsters inside have that weakness, feeling his strange cave sickness fade as he walks deeper. After taking so many hits and almost getting beaten up, Kong finally thought A's mound would give him a real reward, and sure enough, a treasure chest appeared right in front of him. He happily sprints to the chest and gives thanks to his own for the gift. But he spoke too soon, for a huge creature stepped out of the shadows and slammed him so hard that he slid away. The weapon belongs to a headless knight called a Dullahan, who rides along spinning a steel ball on a chain. He tosses the object at the hero, who dives out of the way and uses his magic to sharpen his blade, just as he did back when he fought the Nulles. This time, the Dullahan's armor is so tough that the protagonist's sword can't even scratch it. He is so focused on his goal that he fails to see the spiked ball rushing at him, and when he tries to block it with his sword, he is slammed backward, realizing that even his magic cannot cut through such a powerful weapon. He realizes the Dullahan is playing a completely different game, and worse yet, his sword is about to snap from the fierce blows. Kong keeps dodging the Dullahan's attacks, knowing that if his sword breaks, he will surely lose to such a strong monster. But he then realizes that since the mission from his mound only asked him to clear the dungeon without specifying how, meffing must have meant that risking his life to fight the Dullahan was the only way to do it. He quickly grabs the chest, knowing it's the reward his sound promised, and runs away without asking any more questions. But he still has to figure out how to slip past the headless man to get away, wondering how something with no head can even know where to strike. The protagonist briefly wonders if he should act like a lunatic and just run away in a panic. But then, he suddenly realizes something. The knight has no eyes to see, but his horse does, and it's using its vision to find him. He tosses his flashlight up to blind the horse, causing the rider to swing wildly while the hero grabs the chest and bolts. In the middle of the chaos, the knight spots the protagonist and points him out, but Kong isn't fooled and immediately sprints toward the dungeon entrance. He had forgotten the barrier he'd built himself, and he explains that it stops more than just monsters. It also locks people inside and won't stop working for a while. By a stroke of luck, the barrier vanished instantly, and for the first time, he crawled out of the cave alive. The cave crashes down and locks the door, so the hero knows he no longer needs the barrier to seal the place. After everything, the hero finally opens the chest to find a hidden skill and a strange bottle of water inside. The protagonist grabs the vial, drinks the skill inside, and suddenly his guardian shield gets a boost, making him both heal faster and block more damage. He can't tell if he should feel happy or sad because his tank skills just keep getting better. After that, he pops open his water bottle, realizing that his mouth words are proving right and changing his mind about past lives being nonsense. The hero tells me he doesn't mind the gods messing with him, but if getting his memories back is the key to the life he wants, he'll do whatever it takes. He takes a sip from the bottle and suddenly sees a glimpse of the past. In this vision, a swordsman from a volcanic land named Jang Hyong just defeated several warriors alone and promises by his name that he will defeat a certain evil demon. He thrusts his sword at the middle of the battlefield, summoning the creature to fight, and as the beast flies toward him with its own blade drawn, their clash ends before it can truly begin. The scene shifts to find the warrior lying defeated on the ground, confused and heartbroken, as he questions the demon standing tall among the fallen and pleads for the return of the innocent lives lost, his mind drifting from happy family memories to the heartbreaking sound of a crying child in the middle of the chaos. The demon scratches his head, puzzled by the warrior's demand for a reason. He walks up to the fallen warrior, and when he lifts the mask, he looks just like King On, and he says it's only because he likes it. The warrior stares in shock at the answer, but before he can even think, the demon strikes him right away. Suddenly, the memory fades, and he wakes up in the forest, standing right in front of the chest. Even after seeing something terrifying, he finally realizes he's now got 2 new powers to use. The demon's first trick is a smart IQ boost that makes his attacks stronger every time you defeat an enemy. And after you kill 100 foes, that skill gets even better. The second move is the demonic sword's first form, a devastating slash that boosts the hero's attack power while also inflicting bad status effects on the enemy. As he thought about his new powers, dark memories from his old life began to flood back. After losing his parents and watching his relatives fight over their money, And even after his bus crashed and hurt several people, the protagonist finally realizes that all of this tragedy happened because of the terrible things he did in his past life. From losing his parents to everyone getting hurt just because he was around. In the middle of his grief, he receives a call from a man named Young Minhuk, who recognizes him and asks if he'd like to take on a small job. The scene shifts to a diner where the protagonist meets Minhuk, who notes it's been a long time since they last saw each other, and happily mentions he heard the protagonist got promoted. He asks once more if the protagonist wants to join his team at Kaizen, but the protagonist is still feeling sad and confused by the question. The protagonist couldn't shake the feeling that it was odd, since the world's top company had no reason to care about him. Most importantly, Minhuk had long ago put down his bow and arrow, and though the protagonist couldn't figure out why, he was now working for a solid company. Before he can decide whether to say yes, the protagonist is hit again by a painful flashback to one of his tragic pasts. As he scooted to school with a friend, they both tumbled off their ride. The hero claims he is fine, but the other boy thinks silently that they always tumble over whenever they try to walk together. The boy even sneers at the protagonist, calling it a curse that might have even taken his own parents to the grave. The protagonist gets furious, but Minhuk steps up to the boy and asks if that's really what you say to a friend. The boy wonders why Minhuk started yelling so suddenly, and Minhuk warns him that there are some words you can say out loud and others you absolutely cannot, so the boy apologizes to the protagonist, who just says it's okay. Minhuk hops onto his scooter and races ahead, shouting for the protagonist to follow, while a security guard leads the students behind them. Then the story snaps back to where we are now. Minhuk tells the protagonist that with his new E-rank status, he's ready to tackle tough high-level raids, and having a company back him means he'll get the perfect teammates and the boost he needs to grow as a hunter. The hero still can't shake the memories of his life as a demon, and worries if he can really keep hunting without breaking down. He tells Minhuk that he came to the diner just to look at his friend's face one more time after all this time. The protagonist was about to speak when Minhuk cut him off, bluntly suggesting his lack of promotion wasn't due to his skills, and that even if he made it to rank E, it was likely just because an examiner felt sorry for him. In the end, even a hunter who misses his mark can still go far if they have someone like that to help them. He keeps talking to the main character, trying to convince him to join the company. But then, the hero suddenly feels something odd. He is hit by a flash of his past life as a demon, and he starts feeling sick just like before. Minhuk worries and asks if he is okay, telling him that if he pushes himself too hard, he really needs an agent like him to help. But the hero feels this way because he just got a text on his phone saying he officially made the Rangers team. He apologizes to Minhuk for his sudden departure and long silence, but he knows he can't waste time feeling sorry. He insists he only came to visit his friend and say thanks. Minhuk tells the hero it's okay to leave their forgotten phone on the table, but a sudden news report interrupts them, warning that a dangerous E-rank portal has just opened nearby. Minivac asks for safety, so the protagonist points the way to the crowd, rushing toward the shelters. Suddenly, a lizard monster wielding a huge trident smashes through the window, shattering everything in its path. It smashes the tables and falls on a customer who is desperately trying to run away from monster. The man shouts for help as his wife looks on with fear. Stuck with no way out, the protagonist finally realizes he has to act. Minhua grabs his shoulder and urges us to flee before more monsters arrive, reminding us that no one will blame a rank E for running to stay alive. He yells at the hero to quit pretending and run before they tear him apart, but the protagonist instantly remembers his past. Kong sees the monster with another person already stuck on its spear and about to do the same to the man lying on the ground. He realizes he has to stop this madness before it gets out of hand. He keeps seeing flashes of the people he killed in his past life. After finally deciding, he unleashes his demonic sword power, charges straight at the enemy, and cuts it down with a single, powerful slash. The monster flies back, the old man finds his wife again, and Minhuk just stands there shocked at what the hero did. Kong tells everyone to run, saying he's changed from his past self, and more enemies are coming. As Minhuk stares at the boy in total shock, the boy promises he will show everyone how much he has changed. The camera jumps forward in time to show police arriving to help the survivors of the lizard men's attack. While Manhwa talks on the phone, he tells the irritated person on the other end that he couldn't recruit the protagonist because the recruitment was so hard. The person says he can't get anything right and insists that no matter if Kong is ranked F or E, Minhuk should have used the company's reputation to try to change his mind. Minhuk tries to say sorry, but the person is so annoyed they just hang up the phone right in his face. The man lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding, then starts talking about how the hero fought the monsters, admitting he no longer even recognizes Kong. Even though the diner is safe, the lizard men keep attacking the people outside. The hero throws himself into the fight with every ounce of strength he has to save everyone. But the enemies keep pouring in, and it's becoming too hard for him to handle them by himself. He chooses to stand in front of the enemy, using his own tough moments as a shield to make them focus on him instead. But that plan fails because there are too many enemies, and not all of them are staring at him. He knows he's in trouble, but with help coming any second now, he just has to hold the line and keep everyone safe until they arrive. Just as a lizard man nearly spears the hero, he calls upon the Guardians will to harden his skin once more. With that, he braces his shield and swings at the enemy, knocking their blow aside. The best part is that the more enemies surround him, the stronger his defense becomes as he activates his special skill. He uses every helpful power he has to slash at the enemies with his sword and manage to knock down a few of them. But many are still standing, and if the hero isn't careful, they could become a massive problem for him. Or at least it would be, except for his new power. Every time he slays an enemy, the demon gets smarter and hits harder. He stares at his sword for a split second, until a civilian scream yanked him back to reality. The army finally shows up, and the soldiers open fire on the lizard men, refusing to stop until they are told to. The platoon leader orders his men to scatter and hunt every corner of the buildings for any survivors. Then we watch as soldiers rush to heal the hurt civilians and sweep up any creatures that dare to block their way. But when one of them digs through the ruins, he finds the hero lying broken on the ground, clutching only his sword soaked in blood. The soldier spots you, leads you to his boss, and the two of them watch the video of the fight you just had in the building. The hero goes alone against the lizard men, cutting them down one by one with pure hate in his eyes. The commanding officer asks if he's a ranger, but they don't know, so they just say he appeared out of nowhere and started tearing through the monsters. They think he's just a hunter pretending to be a hero, but luckily, no one was hurt because of it. The commander orders them to grab the protagonist and put him in chains, warning that letting clumsy hunters keep acting this way will only cause big trouble later. But the soldier says the real problem is something else, and given how badly the protagonist was hurt, it seemed like he might have died until he suddenly woke up to find himself safe thanks to Kim Chunik, the same soldier he had saved back in the dungeon at the very start. The hero thinks of him and worries about his grandmother's surgery, but he's too weak to ask. Kim worries about his wounds and wonders if he truly killed all the monsters alone, but he ignores her and stands up to keep moving. Kong gets to his feet and takes a few steps, but Kim warns him that he won't go far in that state. As expected, the protagonist collapses after only a few steps, making Kim realize his wounds are far worse than he thought. The hunter warns that since the protagonist is only rank F, getting caught like this would mean certain arrest. Kim, proving he's a true friend, promises to stop the authorities from arresting the man who saved his life. He hoists the protagonist onto his shoulders and slips away into the night, hiding his identity despite the storm of trouble waiting for him later. Then the scene shifts to the hospital where the protagonist wakes up to find Kim's grandmother waiting, telling him to rest and assuring him that while she was worried when he first arrived, the doctor has confirmed he is no longer in danger. The lady slides a plate of sliced apples toward him, telling him all he needs to do is eat, sleep, and listen to the doctor to feel better. She tells me he saved her grandson, that she's waited ages to meet him, and that she's heard he is an amazing man. As the protagonist takes a bite of the apple, it tastes so good that it instantly brings back memories of his childhood when his mother was still alive. The reporter gets ready to go live and tell the sad news about the E-rank portal tragedy that hit Wangami tonight. He speaks with a soldier to find out if they heard the missing citizen's story after everything happened. The soldier answers that he rushed to help the young man right away, only to see that all the monsters were already dead. So the crowd cheers Kong, telling the hero that without his help, ordinary people would have died in the disaster. And while the soldier keeps praising the young man, the hero himself wonders why everyone is still talking about him. Setting all that aside, the hero knows in his heart that things have never been more dangerous. He insisted that no ordinary Asmound gave this test, but rather that he challenged a monster to fight alone, and so a brief glimpse of that solo battle was shown. With all his might, he finally chops off one of the beast's arms. He piled up dead bodies around himself, yet more mutant lizards kept marching toward him. He admitted that even after killing 10 monsters, the battle wasn't turning his way. But the system suddenly appears and turns on his demonic power, making his attacks way stronger for a short time. The old lizard lunges at him, its spear point ready. It even tries to hit the MC who is still distracted. Now that the hero is tougher than ever, he keeps sending more lizards to their graves. As he activates his aromatic blood power and leaps toward the monster, his wild demonic abilities flare up right along with the others. Slathered in monster ketchup, he suddenly feels something strange about his body. He says that no matter what he wants, an attack fires on its own, and soon he becomes an unstoppable force with other powers joining in. A crowd of bodies lies around him, all sharing one thing. They are on the ground. Even though he is mighty, his stamina doesn't grow, so he still gets tired. The blood power keeps surging and waking up new abilities. But this time, a new power activated. The Guardians healed his wounds and strengthened his defense while washing away all the negative effects. Back at the hospital, he admits that without the Guardians' help, he doesn't know how much longer he could have survived the madness forced upon him. Bestie insists that this blood power ability doesn't belong in our world, and even the system gets it wrong when trying to explain it. Still worried about what happened, he doesn't even see someone handing him an apple. A lady in the hospital with him kindly offers him some delicious apples to help him get better. She thinks it's pretty amazing that there are folks like the hero who stepped up during the disaster. She also mentioned that someone paid for her surgery. The MC stays quiet as she realizes the stranger who paid for her surgery was actually her grandson, who transferred the money directly without saying a name because, as he later thinks, no normal person would give cash to a total stranger. She keeps saying it's hard to take the money for her surgery, which makes the MC wonder why she hasn't had it yet, until she finally admits she decided to take it and hopes they'll approve the procedure next week. Kong sets aside the chat and asks what it takes to get the Guardian's blessing. Just then, the lady cuts in to tell us about her lonely grandson, insisting that having to deal with all this must mean he'll never be left alone again. Kong keeps eating until he chokes on the lady's kind words, which remind him he is different from monsters and make him happy to help others. So he wishes her a successful surgery and gains more power and faith from his heartfelt hope. After recovering in the hospital, the MC stepped out to face a building guarded by a heavy security team. He rolls up his sleeves and firmly declares that he must find out more about the strength of the demonic blood. He explains that using such power in a real fight is too hard, so he must practice control of the training center, and Emma agrees that even there, it will help him get started. The person in charge checks the MC's name and tells him that once he's checked in, he must stay for a full month before he can leave. The MC reassures him that everything is fine, and the attendant tells him he'll get all the details once he steps inside and talks to the system. An inspector calls for him and says she will lead him to the training room's entrance. This time, following the instructor, he sees things are different because the previous guy is gone, and the inspector tells him he must defeat 20 monsters before they run out and have to wait a full day to restock. She says she'll lock the door, and he says okay. At last, he can begin training to get stronger. Just as he was getting things ready, the woman suddenly called out to him. She turned to the door and said that a 5th trial stage had been added because of the bad man's karma. She tells him that time moves slower inside that room, so he must survive 30 days outside and 300 inside. With a wave of her hand, she announces the reward power is plus 5 divine levels, leaving Kong speechless and in shock. It's been a month since he arrived, and the system is now telling him that training is done, so he needs to clean up before leaving. Once he steps out of the trading room, the MC slides a small card across to the receptionist. The receptionist congratulates him on finishing the training and notices a strange new glow around him. Suddenly, the figure in the room shifts into a new shape, blending the looks of Rem and Dinos. So he chooses to change his appearance to look better. The hairdresser gave his beautiful hair a good wash. After that, the MC settles back and relaxes quietly in a big tub. Freshly washed and with a fresh cut, he heads out to a restaurant. He enjoys a good meal while taking in the strange sights of the colon. He was so hungry he almost ate the bowl itself. He walked away from there feeling the cool, sweet taste of his ice cream in his mouth. He finally gets home and dashes to the bathroom to relieve himself, slamming the door and locking it while leaving his bag outside. After finally taking a huge dump, the MC collapses onto the floor, completely wiped out. Hours go by with him lying down until the system pops up to tell him he's passed the 5th trial. The sun rises on a fresh chance for us to explore the land of Sandongo. Suddenly, a horde of goblins wielding heavy clubs bursts onto the scene, smashing everything in their path. Some have already stepped into the crosshairs, just waiting to be brought down. Now that we've locked on to our targets, it's time to unleash the missiles and wipe out those monsters. They try to stop it, but the goblins just keep coming back, making their efforts barely do any good. Driven by a hunger for blood, the goblin rips through everything in its path. The soldier dumps every last bullet from his clip into the monster, but the beast keeps charging straight at the group. He slams a car door shut to block the bullets, but it isn't enough, and he still gets hit. Then the guy felt like a hero for finally taking down a first-class goblin. Everyone scrambles back into the military truck and drives away from the area. He's on the phone with someone, telling them to stay safe out there. The brown-haired friend asked if the guy was talking to his younger brother, and Chun-Sik nodded yes. The guy with brown hair says the brother is really worried about his sibling, but the other guy shakes his head and says that makes no sense at all. They both press the phone up to their eyes to stare at the picture of the younger brother. Noticing the man's strange behavior, he warns that this is a huge warning sign. Just as they're chatting, a new recruit arrives and tells them that Inspector Kim-chan is on the lookout. The brown-haired warrior freezes in shock when he hears that an inspector is looking for him. Min-young steps forward and tells us she is a reporter. The guy is completely suspicious of the woman and asks her if she works for a reporter. All the women want to know everything about the E-rank warrior who caught their eye with his strange, powerful skills. Chum immediately shuts down the conversation when the woman asks to learn more about the powers of E-ranks. The woman says she gets why you want to keep their identity secret, but she's here because she feels the exact same way. Yet, that still isn't enough to win over Chesmet-chan. The reporter claimed that a real secret keeper wouldn't betray someone like that, and all that excitement looked like nothing but empty pride. Knowing he's trapped, the guy breaks into a cold sweat as the woman reveals she expected nothing from him, then calmly hands him a package. Suddenly, the truck driver yells for him, so he grabs the package without even asking what's inside. She looks happy to have finished her work. Back in the dorm, he kept the package safe while drying his hair. Inside the envelope lay a tiny gift from the reporter, a small token of her thanks. He sits down, lifts the flap of the envelope, and peeks inside to see what's waiting for him. Inside, we found papers proving that money was sent to Kingon. Chun sits on the bench, nursing his wounds, as we learn that everything following his rescue by Kong has unfolded since then. He knows things can't stay this way, so he decides to make a move. He starts his day by pouring a fresh cup of coffee for the nurses. Both thanked him because they were exhausted from their long shift. With that, he jumps at the chance to ask about the unpaid hospital bills. Just as he was about to speak, someone called him away to talk about that very thing. He is left so shocked that he starts begging them not to evict his grandmother, but the nurse tells him the bills are already paid and he shouldn't worry. So desperate was he that he completely missed the woman's words. She keeps saying that a stranger paid for him and his grandmother. Her words finally reach him, and tears of pure joy roll down his face. This time, he sheds tears of joy over the transfer papers from Kong. Truly happy, yet regretful, he can't thank his benefactor. So he wipes his eyes and declares again how happy he is. So, he reaches into his pocket and tries to pull something out. He's going to call the reporter to talk about that person. A few seconds later, her phone buzzed with a happy call from the person she knew, but then the sad news came that she would never learn who the mysterious caller was. But this makes her grow impatient with the answers she keeps getting. Feeling both impatient and curious, the poor reporter sits there with nothing to show for her effort. The reporter, soaking up every bit of news, insists that Wang Simi's tanker will never get away from him. Right away, the hero shivers from his toes straight up to his head. This time, the MC joins a group to step through the black portal one more time. Johan thanks Kingon for joining the team, but warns him that moving forward through the thick fog is dangerous. Another E-rank hero named Young-chan wonders why the exploration team hasn't told anyone about the fog. The D-rank hunter stays quiet because he's just as confused as the rest. But the MC grumbles that the fog appeared just as he got there and wonders if it's some kind of karma. He then says they're stuck with a problem they can't fix. He keeps saying that the fog will make it hard to see far, but they can still make out what's within about 10 meters. Then, someone else jumps in to ask if the MC really means they should just wait around without knowing what's coming. But Kong reaches into his bag and pulls out a jar of ants to help them find their way. After a while, the fierce fighting leaves nothing but ruins around. Jung keeps wondering what kind of idiot would bring ants to a raid and claims he's never heard of such a stupid strategy. As the MC spreads the sticky liquid, Chan wonders if he should just follow along without thinking. Jung-chan grumbles that visibility is still terrible, and just then, a loud alarm bell rings out of nowhere. This makes Kong step up to guard and give his attention twice as much. Right then, a massive beast starts to claw its way out of the dark. As the monsters draw near, the MC shouts a warning and readies himself for the fight. 3 guys huddle behind rocks to block the attacks while a healer shakes uncontrollably just hearing the monster's footsteps. A mutant ant creeps up to the rock, its eyes fixed on the honey smeared across the stone. The sweet honey sends them into a wild frenzy, filling the air with deafening screeches. The hero strikes down his foes one by one, while his shield grows 5% stronger. He plunges his sword deep into the ant's body and brings it down, just like Vasco did. While he was busy hunting one ant, the others jumped in to attack together. But this nasty surprise isn't enough to beat Kong, since he manages to take cover. But an ant rises from the ashes and shatters the rock, leaving him defenseless and struck down before he can fight back. Without mercy, The ant rains down hits on a soft spot on his head, but the MC breaks free and strikes back, splitting him in half. The archer releases an arrow from his bow. His arrows land with pinpoint accuracy, and in a single moment, he takes down 2 targets. But since nothing ever goes perfectly, one arrow almost hits the protagonist, giving a mutant a chance to get close. They thought they were safe, but they were actually cut right in half. The redhead sighs with relief as he raises his axe, which is still covered in the remains of a monster. This leaves the guy impressed by their amazing skills, even though they don't seem to mind throwing out messy attacks. But the healer doesn't have the same luck. Just as everyone thought they were safe, a loud boom shook the air and scared them all. The MC is as shocked as you are just as the system starts boosting his powers up even more. Soon, a growing army of ants begins to show up. The noise is so deafening they can't even tell which way it's coming from. The healer, shaking with fear, can't believe his ears. The ants suddenly speed up and race toward the group. One of them lunges at the healer, who raises his staff to defend himself just as the redhead spots the danger in time. The attack is about to happen, and the only thing waiting for the healer is terrible pain. Young-chan just doesn't get why that guy has to act so silly. While everyone else feared the worst, the MC showed up just in time to rescue the healer. But the ant still finds something to bite. What was actually biting down was Kang's arm. The ant bites down harder, but the protagonist holds his arms tight to make sure nothing bad happens. With that, the system sparks his iron body ability, making him far tougher. The ant had no second chance as Kong crushed it with one swift strike. All it needed was a clean, sharp slice. He stands tall and earns respect from everyone on the battlefield, waiting for even tougher enemies to challenge him. This time, the system warns that every monster will be locked onto him. The ants are falling one by one. The archer, who is huge, stares in shock at what he sees. This makes his group start doubting how strong he really is and wonder if he's just an E-rank hunter. For some reason, the pointy-eared archer turns red when he looks at the MC and then asks Kong how he got so strong so quickly. That question brings back memories of every painful moment he endured at the training center. Obviously, he can't share what he did or went through, so he just says he worked hard. To avoid more questions, he shifts the topic and tells the group that everything that happened was his fault. The redhead, gripping her small axe, says that with Kong around, there's no need to fear any surprises. Kong thanks him for his kind thoughtfulness, and Young admits he has never seen a tank as good as this on his team. Even though Young is happy with the battle's outcome, he still disagrees with one thing. He turns around, scolds the healer for doing nothing, and wonders why he's even part of their group. Those words made Kong pause, not in agreement with what Young had said. He went on to explain that while the red-headed girl dealt with the ants from behind, he handled the ones coming at them from the front. But the mage healer hiding behind the rocks doesn't care, so he questions the guy about his reasons for joining, while the archer steps in to try and stop the group from falling apart. With that, he also asks to speak for the healer. As the archer talks about how the guy got in, something strange starts to happen all around him. Right under his feet, the ground starts shaking so hard that cracks form and cause them to fall into a cavern. At the very same moment, the system sends a buzz to tell you that both the challenge and your karma have gone up. Everyone in the group is still alive, though they're all hurt in different spots. Then the MC warns that they're in trouble because they've just landed right in the middle of an anthill. Then the system tells him that his defense and health will grow stronger as more enemies appear. Knowing they're in big trouble, Jump panics and shouts that the warrior ant is coming. A D-rank mutant, just 170 centimeters tall, walks slowly toward them. The hero realizes in his mind just how badly screwed he is for being in a C-rank area. Meanwhile, the useless healer begins to feel sick from fear and pain. Kong steps up to Woobin and asks what's going on. The green-haired archer from the group turns around and readies herself to speak. He tells us Woobin has been fighting monsters since he was little, and seeing they're now in even deeper trouble makes Jump furious. He screams out in disbelief, wondering why someone like that was even allowed on such a vital mission and questioning if the archer has lost their mind. Everyone stands frozen in shock, knowing Young Chan's words are wrong. Lil Chong shouts that falling into an anthill wasn't enough, and now they've got a useless mage to deal with too. Even as the guys argue about right and wrong, the system quietly tells Kong that his powers have grown by 35%. Feeling trapped and sure he's about to die, Young begs Woobin and Hambule to step up and take charge. The MC sees the group getting scared and tries to calm down Little Axe before things get out of hand. The protagonist realizes that if they panic, they'll never be able to use their special powers. He tries to calm Young down by explaining that he gets why Young is so upset since he has never faced high-level raids before. That's why he tells Young to keep his eyes on the fight and trust his friend, the MC. After pointing out that the narrow passage can only hold a few ants at a time, the MC offers to guard their backs, and Jung steps up to give it a try. Once the young mage settles down, he tells Hambiel to look after the smaller tunnels right away. Kong and his team get ready to fight the giant mutant ants. In his mind, he sees 35 ants waiting to be taken down, but to him, it's just training to learn how to overcome them. But his only worry is that every ant he sees is a powerful soldier. An ant lunges at the protagonist just as the Guardian's shield springs to life. He's struggling big time right now because he's got to fight them all by himself. They race ahead with such speed and power that he knows he must stop a few of them before they dash out of the tunnel. With no time to weaken, the MC charges back into the fight against the ants. He slashes with a special sword move to shove the monster backward. He wakes up his dark blood power, but this time it takes on a second, even stronger shape. The ant won't stop attacking, forcing the MC to keep defending while the MC's attacks do too little now that the ant is so tough. He finally knocks out one ant and crushes its head to make sure it's truly gone. The ants keep pouring in, his shield crumbles to dust, yet he stands firm and refuses to fall. With one quick strike, he wipes out 3 of the charging ants. Every ant he knocks out drains his strength, and his loss meter is already flashing red at 10%. Once more, he taps into his dark blood power to get a quick boost in strength. With perfect control, he cuts through the ants that keep rushing at him. His health and defense keep falling, yet his blood power climbs another 2%. A brave ant dares to strike down from the sky, only to be instantly pierced by the hero's sword. This time, the more he realizes he is in control, the stronger his focus and determination become. He dives back into the fight, charging at the monsters as his strength keeps growing. Ants pour out from the ceiling, floor, and walls, just marching straight ahead without stopping. Jung Chun is giving it his all, just like he always does. He hits one of the ants. Just then, another ant creeps up quietly and snatches his arm. He forces himself to stay calm, so he won't panic again, but it fails and the bite causes him such intense pain that he can't hold it back. He swings his axe to smash a rock onto the ant. The rock did its job and knocked out the monster, but it hurt his arm so much that he is now badly injured. He begins to think it's over because the pain stops him from using his powers. Just as he stood there, someone stepped up behind him and started casting magic. Slowly, the guy's arm starts to feel like it used to. The healer, who is the main character, asks if Jum is trying to die. Little Axon is stunned to see Kong healing him and begs him to stop and fix himself first. The MC thanked him for worrying, but explained that John needed help too. They stand shoulder to shoulder, willing to lose their lives if they must. Just as Kong was getting ready to heal himself, he was startled by a sudden swarm of ants. But just in time, the MC steps up to take the hit and keep the rest from getting hurt. Even though they fought off many ants, the battle feels endless. So Kong knows they must save their strength and wonders how many more enemies are hiding in that dark hole. Poor Ruben still can't help his team because of his fear of monsters, but he knows he can't keep going like this and wonders why this nightmare is happening only to him. It all makes him feel sad because while the others give everything to fight the monsters, he can't do the same. Hamily shouts at Wu Bin to face the truth, but Wu Bin stubbornly refuses to believe it. This makes Kong, Jung, and the archer furious to see his friend in pain, so he grabs the healer mage by the neck and shakes him. He slapped the man and asked if he could see what was going on. He says they're risking their lives right now just to keep him safe. He tells him that if he must go, he should leave without dragging innocent people down with his own pain. With no words to say and no power to move, that's exactly where he stands. Then, for a brief moment, Wu Bin remembers his friend calling to share the story of an amazing person they met during the test. He breathes hard and shivers with cold while listening to his friend. Hamily can't stand seeing his friend like this, so he asks if they can team up with the test person to help him heal. The moment the word trauma is spoken, a deep memory of his own past pain rises within the healer. His flashbacks return, reminding him of the hard times his family endured while trying to stay away from the portal. He sprints away as fast as he can but trips and crashes hard on the ground, getting hurt. His mother urges him to get up quickly, but he winces in pain. She orders Wu Bin to grab her as hard as he can. The little boy clings to his mother with every bit of his strength, but then something terrible happens to both of them. Right before his eyes, something terrible happens, and Wu Bin breaks down into tears. Now back in the present, Wu Bin faces a tough choice about who to be, but the memories he just saw have clearly changed how he looks. Then he tells Hambiel that he'll do his best, closes his eyes to focus on the change he needs, and promises not to let anyone die because of him. Mana starts pouring from his staff, and the air itself begins to shift under its heavy presence. As Kong battles, The system warns that something is terribly wrong. The system just keeps looping over a mysterious error it can't seem to fix. Meanwhile, the mage starts to focus with an unbelievable intensity. The archer gives his all to keep his friends safe, then opens his eyes to see everyone else doing their very best too. Kong gets trapped by the ant, but refuses to quit. Finally, Woven is breaking free from his cage to become the wild beast he was meant to be. His magic is so powerful that it fills the whole place with roaring fire. He calls forth a mighty salamander whose fire is so fierce that it fills the cave with heat hot enough to tear the whole place apart. The salamander rushes straight at its summoner's enemies without slowing down for a second. The salamander keeps unleashing and spreading more flames. Little Action shakes with fear at what his eyes are seeing. But the salamander moved right toward him, which scared him, though he wasn't hit. Only the tunnel the ants crawled out of was struck. The MC was so amazed by the little mage's skills that he couldn't help but be impressed. He spins around, shocked by the heavy toll that pain can take on a human soul. At last, the mage who used to be a burden to the group has finally changed. As Woobin burns the whole place down, the protagonist calls him to collapse the ant hole, insisting that's the only way to stop them. Even though Woobin has huge strength, it's not enough to stop the ants from coming forward. So he decides to do what the hero asked, but the ants are determined and keep pushing ahead. But one of the monsters still gets close enough to reach the mage. Realizing he can't just leave it all to the boy, the protagonist also gets his shield power ready and turns it on. Even though his body ached and he was drained, he lifted his sword anyway. He hits the soldier ant. Suddenly, the ant that had been staring at the mage snaps its head back to look right at our hero. He looks ready to strike again, which means he can step in and keep Woobin safe. Now that he's safe, the summoner does exactly what the MC told him to do. He finally blocks the way so the ants can't pass. The protagonist marvels at just how powerful magic feels when so much mana is stored inside. But the magic was so strong that they had to escape quickly or get caught in the debris. So Kong grabbed Yung-chan and sprinted away as fast as he could. Just then, the archer shouts at him to hurry up. Everything gets buried under it all once more. All that remains are the burnt bodies of the ants. In a safe spot away from the danger, the MC starts healing the squad member who is hurt the worst. Kong is falling apart from exhaustion, yet he worries only about everyone else. And because of all of this, Luca Bellino steps forward and invites the MC to take the stage. He was stunned to see her pop up out of nowhere. She says Kong has passed the 6th test and is now ready for his reward. After getting his reward, the system showed the MC his new stats, and he realized just how tough it is to even raise one skill point. But the best part is still coming. But the protagonist still has a question for the girl, wondering why the tests are pulling other people into the mix with him. She tells him that some tests can't be done with just his strength, so Woobin is essential for this one. She says the variables are just as wild and tangled as the mage's sudden arrival in the group. She explains that doing the test alone won't make it easier for him, because in the end, everything is just his karma. She wraps up by telling him he just needs to stop talking, lock in his focus, and get ready to face whatever tests are coming his way. She makes a hand gesture to ask if he gets it, while Kong watches from the back with a serious face. She then told him that if he truly gets everything, he should snap right back to reality. Seeing our hero stand up, the group cheers with relief and asks if he is all right. Still confused about what just happened, Kong wonders if he passed out again. He questions why they still stay, and the archer replies that going back isn't an option. Since the cave is 10 meters deep and its shape makes climbing impossible, they can't get inside. After explaining why they couldn't leave, the guy said their best bet was to wait for him to wake up and check if he had something like a trampoline. Jung asks the archer why anyone would keep something so useless, and the archer replies that it's just a joke. And right then, Kong shocks everyone by revealing he actually has the item. They asked why he had that item, and Kong said it was made for moments just like this one. Little Axe-chan is caught off guard when he sees the MC walking around with ant bait and a jumble of random scrolls. After gathering together at the cave's exit, they leap onto the trampoline and bounce higher and higher, with their second jump soaring even past the first to build up their speed. By the time they made their second jump, they finally leaped out of the cave. As soon as they walked out of the cave, the item started to vanish. The system lets him know that the item he used has vanished from his inventory. Kang's team goes back to the hunter base to report their failure, and after admitting their mistake, the division gives them permission for a new raid. The other 3 chose to settle it quietly so it wouldn't grow into a bigger mess. Even so, the MC is scared it might happen again, and if anyone finds out, they could get banned. As he's worrying about what comes next, a hand suddenly grabs his to say hello. He looks away, puzzled, while Woobin holds Kang's hand and asks if they can team up for the next raid. promising to work even harder so he won't be a burden anymore. Hearing Wubin speak made our hero feel truly happy. He answers that they are a team and there is no need to fear. With that, the other two start wondering about the strange words we are using, and it's explained that Kong says them when things get cringy. Young-chan recalls Kong telling him he hasn't signed with any agency yet. Once the talk at Hunter HQ wraps up, the crew starts waving goodbye. As Young slips away from the group, he pulls out his phone to make a call. Behind it all, the Qian administration building looms in the distance. Someone can be heard in the background nodding and saying yes to show they got it. The lady beside the older woman wonders what kind of call would make her sigh like that. She replies that she was talking to Little Action, who said they're supposed to hire an E-rank hunter. Surprised, the other woman asks what he's thinking, while the first woman tries to understand too. Thanks to Kang's tip, the woman digs into the past and finds out he was once just a lowly F-rank. She then recalls Jung's advice to judge by skill instead of stats and admits that the MC is the greatest hunter he has ever known. She knows that if she doesn't help Little Axe deal with his drama now, it'll only turn into a much bigger problem later. She checked the hiring list and saw that Young-chan Wu had recommended her. The printer starts churning out Kang's recommendation. He takes the message and starts wondering who that person in the recommendation is. As Kang's name is questioned, his superior steps in to ask who he is, admitting he has never heard of the name. He asks to see the papers and is surprised to find that an E-rank has received a recommendation. While some voices in the background claim Minyuk is causing trouble again, the supervisor insists he isn't bothering anyone. The supervisor asks Minyuk if Kong is the guy he once tried to hire but couldn't. Then he mocks the poor man, claiming that if our hero passes the Chinsing selection, the poor man will lose out since Minyuk lacks any eye for talent. The other guy sarcastically thanks him for all the great work he's been doing. After everyone kept criticizing him, he just stood there quiet without saying a word. At least that's how it looks until he starts to crumple the paper. Then he crumples the paper into a ball and tosses it in the trash. While the MC keeps pulling himself up on the bar to build a wide back, he never stops training for even a single second. A beat cuts through his workout, so he digs in his pocket to pull out his phone and see what's up. The notification popped up with a link waiting to be clicked. The link came from Wong's and is just another e-link they send out often. With that, Kian realizes that becoming a ranger means traveling to new places, so he clutches his phone tight and prays that everyone stays safe. In the meantime, the ranger fleet steams toward the fight. Everyone is holding their breath about what's coming next. Even the guy the main character once helped. They pull up to the battlefield, and everyone jumps out of the truck. The lieutenant tells the team they must save the civilians and kill the monsters, but warns them never to let their guard down or their friends will die. The extermination squad gets the job done without wasting a single second. One by one, the mutant wolves crash to the ground. Even as destruction spreads, the monsters slowly fade away. Someone shouts from behind, ordering the soldiers to move on. So they do, as the soldiers shift their positions to patrol the area, checking for safety while looking for any civilians or monsters. A watchful soldier begins to think about the deep anger he feels toward the NLEs. Even though they check the ground, they don't know scary monsters are hanging right above them. As the creatures move, the boulders start to tumble down. The fighter spots the monsters approaching from above and shouts a warning to his friends. So they open fire on the monsters and are ordered to make sure not one gets away. Bullets and missiles tear through everything until the entire place crumbles down. One of them tries to run away, but a big boulder crashes down on top of it. A thick cloud of smoke from the debris hangs in the air, making it nearly impossible to see. Even though the soldiers can barely see through the darkness, they still hear their friends screaming as the monster attacks him. But despite being